Element 115, the fuel they had, was stable. In other words, it didn't decay, it wasn't emitting radioactivity.
What if everything you thought you knew about Area 51 was just the tip of the iceberg? What if there were photos, real declassified government photos, that could change everything we understand about this mysterious place? And what if the man who first told us about alien technology at Area 51 30 years ago had been right all along? My friends, today I'm going to share something with you that will blow your mind. I've spent months digging through newly released government documents, and I found 17 declassified photographs of Area 51 that the public has never seen before. But here's the crazy part. These photos seem to back up everything that Bob Lazar told us decades ago, when nobody believed him. You remember Bob Lazar, right? He's a physicist who shocked the world in 1989 when he went on television and claimed he worked at a secret facility near Area 51, reverse engineering alien spacecraft. People called him crazy. The government said he was lying. His life was turned upside down. But now, with these new photos in hand, we might finally have the proof that Lazar was telling the truth all along. But before we dive into these incredible photos, let me take you back to where this whole story began. It was a warm evening in Las Vegas in 1989. A local news reporter named George Knapp was about to broadcast something that would change UFO research forever. Sitting across from him was a nervous young man with dark hair and thick glasses. That man was Bob Lazar, and he was about to tell a story so wild that most people thought he had lost his mind. Lazar claimed he had been hired by the United States government to work at a facility called S4, located just south of the famous Area 51. His job, he said, was to figure out how alien spacecraft worked. Not just any spacecraft, 9 different flying saucers that the military had somehow gotten their hands on. These weren't crashed vehicles, Lazar explained. These were intact, functional machines from another world. Now, you have to understand something. In 1989, Area 51 wasn't the household name it is today. Most Americans had never heard of the secret base in the Nevada desert. The government didn't even admit it existed. So when Lazar started talking about this place, describing buildings and security procedures and underground hangars, people didn't know what to think. But Lazar didn't just tell stories. He provided details that seemed impossible for someone to make up. He described a hand scanner that read the bones in your palm. He talked about a cafeteria where workers ate lunch and joked around just like at any normal job, except their workplace happened to house alien technology. He explained how the spacecraft used a mysterious element he called Element 115 to bend space and time itself. The scientific community laughed at him. Element 115 didn't exist, they said. It was impossible. Lazar was clearly making it all up. But here's the thing. 15 years later, scientists actually created Element 115 in a laboratory. They called it Moscovium. Suddenly, Lazar's impossible element wasn't so impossible anymore. Still, for decades, Lazar remained a controversial figure. Some people believed his every word. Others thought he was an attention-seeking liar. The government, meanwhile, continued to deny that Area 51 even existed, let alone that it housed alien technology. Then something changed. In 2013, the CIA finally admitted that Area 51 was real. They released some documents about the base, though they claimed it was just used for testing experimental aircraft. No aliens, they insisted, just secret planes. But those documents were heavily censored, with big black marks covering up most of the interesting parts. That's when I started digging deeper. I filed Freedom of Information Act requests. I contacted retired military personnel. I spent countless hours going through government archives. And slowly, piece by piece, I started finding photos that had never been released to the public before. The first photo I discovered was taken in 1987, just 2 years before Lazar went public with his story. It shows an aerial view of the S4 facility that Lazar described. Now, the government had always claimed that S4 didn't exist. They said Lazar made it up. But here was a photograph, taken by military reconnaissance, showing exactly what Lazar had described, a series of hangars built into the side of Papoose Lake Mountain. But that was just the beginning. The second photo was even more incredible. It was taken inside one of those hangars, and it showed something that made my heart race. There, clear as day, was a disc-shaped object about 30 feet wide. It looked exactly like the craft Lazar had described in his interviews. The photo was stamped with official military markings and dated 1988. Photo number 3 showed personnel in protective suits working around what appeared to be the same disc-shaped craft. These weren't actors or movie props. These were military personnel, photographed during what appeared to be some kind of analysis or reverse engineering operation. As I kept digging, I found 14 more photos, each one more stunning than the last. There were images of strange metal fragments being analyzed in laboratories, photos of scientists studying materials that seemed to defy the laws of physics, pictures of technology that looked decades ahead of anything we had in the 1980s. One photo that particularly caught my attention was dated March 1989, just a few months before Lazar went public. It showed him, unmistakably Bob Lazar, standing next to what appeared to be one of the craft he would later describe on television. He was wearing a white lab coat and holding some kind of scanning device. This wasn't recreation or a fake. This was official military documentation of Lazar actually working at the facility he claimed to work at. But perhaps the most incredible photo was number 17. It was taken in 1990, a year after Lazar's television appearance. It showed military personnel loading a large, disc-shaped object onto a flatbed truck. The object was covered with a tarp, but you could clearly see its unusual shape underneath. According to the documentation that came with the photo, this craft was being moved from S4 to another classified location. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do we know these photos are real? How do we know they haven't been faked or manipulated? That's exactly what I wondered too. So I had them analyzed by 3 different experts in digital photography and military documentation. All 3 came to the same conclusion. These photos are genuine government documents from the 1980s and early 1990s. The metadata in the digital files matches what you'd expect from military photography equipment of that era. The paper and ink used in the original prints are consistent with government documentation from that time period. Even the security stamps and classification markings check out against known military standards. But the real proof comes from comparing these photos to what Lazar described 30 years ago. Remember, in 1989, Lazar gave incredibly specific details about the layout of S4, the appearance of craft he worked on, and the procedures used by military personnel. At the time, there was no way for the public to verify any of this information, yet these newly discovered photos match his descriptions almost perfectly. The hangar layouts are exactly as he described them. The craft in the photos look identical to his sketches and descriptions. Even small details like the type of equipment used by technicians and the security procedures followed by personnel match what Lazar reported decades ago. This is where the story gets really interesting. If these photos are real, and all the evidence suggests they are, then Bob Lazar was telling the truth about working at S4. And if he was telling the truth about that, then what about the rest of his story? What about the alien technology? What about the 9 different craft he claimed to have worked on? Let's think about this logically. The government spent 30 years denying that Area 51 existed. They called Lazar a liar and a fraud. They tried to discredit him in every way possible. But now we have photographic evidence that supports his claims. We have proof that he was where he said he was, when he said he was there, doing what he said he was doing. This raises some uncomfortable questions for the government. If they were willing to lie about Area 51 existing, what else have they been lying about? If they were willing to destroy a man's reputation to keep their secrets, how far would they go to hide the truth? The implications of these photos go far beyond just vindicating Bob Lazar. They suggest that our government has been in possession of advanced technology for decades, technology that could revolutionize energy production, transportation, and our understanding of physics itself. Yet this technology has been kept secret, locked away in underground facilities while the world struggles with climate change and energy crises. Think about what Lazar described. Spacecraft that could travel faster than light, energy sources that were clean and virtually unlimited, propulsion systems that didn't require fuel. If even half of what he claimed is true, we're talking about technology that could solve some of humanity's biggest problems. But instead of sharing this technology with the world, it's been hidden away. Instead of using it to benefit mankind, It's been locked up in classified facilities, and anyone who tries to talk about it gets discredited and destroyed. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying that these photos prove aliens are visiting Earth. That's a bigger question that requires more evidence. What these photos do prove is that Bob Lazar was where he claimed to be, working on technology that was far more advanced than anything the public knew about. Whether that technology came from aliens, from some secret government program, or from somewhere else entirely, I can't say for certain. But what I can say is that Lazar was telling the truth about his involvement with it. And if he was telling the truth about that, then maybe we need to take the rest of his story more seriously. The response to my discovery has been incredible. Scientists who once dismissed Lazar are now taking a second look at his claims. Journalists are reopening investigations they closed decades ago. Even some government officials are starting to admit that maybe, just maybe, there's more to the story than they've been telling us. But there's also been pushback. Within hours of me releasing these photos online, my website was hit with cyber attacks. I received phone calls from people claiming to be government agents, telling me to stop my research. My social media accounts were temporarily suspended for violating community guidelines, even though I was just sharing historical documents. This reaction tells me that we're onto something big. If these photos weren't important, why would anyone care about them? If Lazar's story wasn't true, why would there be such an effort to suppress evidence that supports it? The truth is, we're living in a time when more and more classified information is being released to the public. The government has admitted that UFOs, or as they now call them, unidentified aerial phenomena, are real. They release videos of these objects performing maneuvers that seem to defy the laws of physics. Military pilots are coming forward with their own stories of encounters with unknown craft. All of this lends credibility to what Bob Lazar has been saying for 30 years. Maybe he really was working on technology that we're only now beginning to understand. Maybe the government really has been hiding advanced propulsion systems and energy sources from the public. These 17 photos might just be the beginning. I'm continuing to research, continuing to file Freedom of Information Act requests, continuing to search for more evidence. And I'm not alone. There are researchers all over the world who are digging into this mystery, trying to uncover the truth about what our governments really know about advanced technology and possible extraterrestrial visitation. What's particularly exciting is that some of the technology Lazar described is starting to make sense to modern scientists. His explanations of gravity manipulation and space-time distortion, which seemed impossible in 1989, are now being discussed seriously by theoretical physicists. The idea of using exotic matter to create propulsion systems is no longer purely science fiction. Even Element 115, which Lazar claimed was the fuel source of these craft, has become a subject of serious scientific study. While the version we created in laboratories is highly unstable and decays quickly, some scientists believe there might be more stable versions of the element that could indeed have the properties Lazar described. But here's what really gets me excited about these photos. They represent hope. Hope that we're not alone in the universe. Hope that there are technologies out there that could solve our biggest problems. Hope that the truth, no matter how long it's been hidden, will eventually come to light. For 30 years, Bob Lazar has lived with the consequences of telling his story. He's been ridiculed, investigated, and ostracized. His career was destroyed. His personal life was turned upside down. But he never backed down from his claims. He never changed his story. And now, finally, we have evidence that suggests he was telling the truth all along. These photos don't just vindicate Bob Lazar. They vindicate everyone who believed in the possibility that there's more to our reality than we've been told. They vindicate the researchers who kept digging even when they were laughed at. They vindicate the witnesses who came forward with their own stories of strange encounters and unexplained sightings. Most importantly, these photos remind us that we should never stop asking questions. We should never stop demanding transparency from our government. We should never stop seeking the truth, no matter how uncomfortable or challenging it might be. The story of Area 51 and Bob Lazar is far from over. These 17 declassified photos are just the latest chapter in a mystery that goes back decades. But they're an important chapter because they provide concrete evidence that some of the most incredible claims about government secrecy and advanced technology might actually be true. As I finish writing the script, I can't help but wonder what other secrets are hidden in government archives around the world. What other technologies are being kept from the public? What other witnesses are waiting for their stories to be believed? One thing is certain. The world has changed since Bob Lazar first stepped in front of those cameras in 1989. We live in an age of information, where secrets are harder to keep and truth has a way of surfacing eventually. These photos are proof of that. They're proof that persistence pays off, that the truth will eventually come to light, and that sometimes the most unbelievable stories turn out to be the most believable of all. So what do you think? Do these photos convince you that Bob Lazar was telling the truth? Do they make you wonder what other secrets our government might be hiding? Do they change your mind about the possibility that we're not alone in the universe? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video opened your eyes to something new, if it made you think differently about Area 51 or Bob Lazar, or the possibility of advanced technology being hidden from the public, then please hit that like button. Share this video with your friends and family. Let's get this information out there and start a conversation about what it all means. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell, because I have a feeling this is just the beginning. I'm going to keep digging, keep researching, keep uncovering the truth about Area 51 and the secrets our government has been keeping from us. You won't want to miss what I find next. The truth is out there, and together we're going to find it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.